Thank you for joining us. As always, I hope you guys are having yourself a good day and things are going up your alley wherever you are. And thank you, as always, for joining us for our class. I always appreciate your commitment, your attendance in this class. Today is going to be quite a fun subject. After a grueling week 7, I would say, with dashboard and so forth, something a little bit more relaxing, outsourcing. Okay, we'll talk about outsourcing a project. It's very common yet rare at the same time to outsource a project, and the reason is that when you outsource a project, the game plan is to manage inter-organizational relationships and be able to find specific people that can do the job in specific companies. And normally we call them subject matter experts. We may call them specific individuals who have some specialty. Whatever they are an asset to our company and we want to work with them. So in this particular case, our goal is that we want to see if there is a relationship that we can build. And if there is a relationship, can we be able to nurture it and hopefully manage it the same way? Okay. So, in our run for the mill here, we're almost done. Can you imagine that? Yay. But nonetheless, of course, there is a little bit more to go. We're currently in Unit 12, which is right down here. Okay. Last week, we talked about what is a project manager. And before that, we talked about monitoring of progress. And also, prior to that, we looked at the teams, and that was kind of the middle of the term. And before the middle of the term, we looked at estimates, defining a project, organization, strategy, and of course our introduction. Okay, so right now we're in unit number 9. All right, and then we have unit number 10, which is next week, which is project closure, how to properly close a project from a leadership perspective. And then of course my favorite, unit 11, R, RCC, review, reflect, closing your careers. We'll talk a lot about the strategies to get there, and basically 3 more classes. All right. After this one, 2 more classes. So definitely we're going to be looking at it. Yes, there are things that we did not look at. International project. We talked agile, but we didn't really mention it. Risk, duration of project, scheduling, and project networks. They were all given in smaller doses in our class, but this one, outsourcing, is a little bit more interesting, a little bit more critique. Okay, going into our class, we're going to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of outsourcing work. Outsourcing work is, as I mentioned, not very common, but also very common. When you look at major companies, any form of company, outsource. Okay, take for example me. Not my company, but I'll tell you about my company later on. But what about me as a instructor? Okay, there are things that I have, which is the experience that I bring to the table, but then there are things that I do not have. For one thing, I need them. Okay, so for example, I need a laptop. I cannot produce my own laptop, and what I need to do, I need to contact another company that makes it. For the company that makes it is a ThinkPad, Lenovo. They make my computer. Okay, so my computer manufacturing is outsourced. Another thing that's outsourced is Zoom. I need to get a license to create Zoom. Other things is that I need to work with the book publisher. Okay, I need to work with them and get the license to book publishing. I need to update my licensing as an instructor. Okay, I need to get the proper documents, I would say, from the Ministry of Education and Training, and that's an important part. I need to do a lot of things. I even need to buy, pens and paper. So all these things are outsourced, okay? And many companies, they create their own items, but in many cases, they need some form of outsourcing. And sometimes you need manpower of outsourcing. You need people. And people will come in and be an extra add-on for you and help you out. But definitely you have to manage them. And there are good things about it. There are bad things about it, okay? So we're going to understand the advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing of work. We're going to describe the elements of requesting for a proposal, making open document that it's available, that we're looking for people. We're going to identify the best practices to outsource your project, talk about practice principles in negotiation, describe what the expectation is in customer satisfaction to make sure that we meet the customer implication here, and also working with customers on their project. And last but not least, also, we're going to be looking at outsourcing a project work. So at the end of our conversation, we're going to be looking at what is outsourcing a project, how do we request proposals, how do we make that happen, what kind of practices you need to put in place, your best protocols, best practices in a outsourced project work, and look a little bit about how to negotiate better. I call it the art of the deal by Donald Trump, but mostly the art of the negotiation. How do you make a good negotiation skill? And also managing customer relationship at the end of the day. So guys, welcome all. We've been through a lot in our semester. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to unit number 9. Unit number 9 is in progress, and hopefully when you are done our lecture, hopefully we will be able to appreciate the business environment and its impact on project, programs, and portfolio at the enterprise level. We'll also explain EPPM to you guys. EPPM is enterprise level project portfolio model. The idea of EPPM is that we want to recognize the complexity and uncertainty that management has in deciding when to initiate EPPM, and understand the connections between the project and the need to maximize the return on your investment, the return on effective resource utilization, and make sure that you can do all the job. So basically what EPPM says is that if you cannot be able to find individuals in your organizational breakdown structure, what do? Outsource them, okay? Don't be shy, outsource them, okay? And that happens a lot of times. People are outsourced. People are used when they're needed, and if they're not needed, they're gonna be jumping in, hopefully, into another project, okay? But most of the time, the idea of return on effective resource utilization tells us that, you know, we have a budget. Budgets are needed to be respected. Budgets needed to be in place. And we want to make sure that at the end of the day, the budgets hopefully could be met. So that's where project-based enterprises come in. Project-based enterprises is nothing new for us, but what is new is the government and the moderation of making sure we can control things from a leadership perspective, and making sure that project-based enterprises can be met. So at the end of the day, guys, when we're looking at the changing economical climate, as well as competition done globally, we want to compete, okay? And many companies want to compete and make sure that they can do a project as need be. So that's where a project manager is put in a position where the driving force of project management is to become more business oriented and more agile. Projects must now be viewed from a strategic perspective of how it affects the company, and also within the business context of the enterprise level on what kind of value we're get from the project, and how does the customer, does the company, how do they benefit from it? All right. So as a result, project managers today, now more than ever, are required to possess very specific skills to complete a project within certain specifications, and also need to create and deliver proper value at the same time. So in today's discussion, in today's learning activity, we're going to talk a little bit about putting enterprise transition all together. And we're going to be discussing transitions to a continuous process and improvement, and discuss the obstacles on anticipating and recommending what to do to mitigate those obstacles as well. And I will give you 2 questions for today. I'll give you some ideas and also some time to complete it, hopefully by the start of next week. Okay, guys? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about outsourcing. Okay, outsourcing is nothing new. When you outsource a particular assignment in your company, you're giving it to somebody else to do. And the idea here is that either you cannot do it in house for whatever reason, or you find it more utilizing to give it to somebody else so that it can be done at a cheaper price. So outsourcing has traditionally been applied to transferring one business department or a process. So for example, accounting, outsource your IT support to another company. Okay. And it's nothing new. It can be applied into different contexts, into different significance. A lot of times you can outsource, for example, big parts of your project work into another company. And for example, Apple, Motorola, they go into a outsource condition where they actually manufacture in China to develop the next generation smartphones, but they do it together. Even though they compete, the idea here is that they can work together. Same thing with Toyota and Chrysler. They collaborate with their suppliers to develop a platform for their new automobiles. So that means their platform is going to be used for manufacturing. It's almost going to be the same, but again, they both compete. They both have almost the same cars. And the idea here is that you would like to hopefully develop a certain combustion with another company to make things work. But in most cases, the way that outsourcing is a function is that you're going to have specific elements and you can outsource most or all of it. Okay. So, for example, in my company, I'm a one-man show, but I'm not only a one-man show, I am a one-man show with some support. So what I would do a lot of times is that in any given year, I would hire 3 individuals. Okay. I call these individuals the A, the W, and the A and the L. Okay. I was gonna call it OWL, but AWOL or OWL or whatever you want to call it. And these people are A for accounting, W for websites, L for law. Okay. I need these people. Okay. And even though I'm a one-man show right here, these people support me. Okay. So what do we need an accountant? Well, my company makes money and I am in the business of service. But if I was to sit down every single night and balance my spreadsheets, it would take me forever. So what I do a lot of times is I outsource it to another company. Okay. In this particular case, what was the number I was giving him? Something like I would pay him per year. Okay. Something in the range of, I'm going to say like $30,000. Okay. And the website design is per demand. So again, when I want to update my website, I want to fix a couple of things here and there, get a new server and so forth. I would hire a website designer for $10,000. Okay. And that's per year. And then a lawyer, I would say $50,000. Okay. So these people kind of work for me, kind of don't. They work like on the side. And all together, my expenses per year comes to roughly either 90 to $100,000. Okay. My company, let's say it generates about 300,000, and I will give these people about $100,000 so that again, it will cost me to hopefully operate at 200,000. The idea here is that I need people, but I cannot utilize them to the fullest. Okay. If I was to do that, I would need to definitely hire them full time, and many of them may not want to be full time. Many of them prefer to work on their own. Okay, but one time I decided, you know what, I outsource them, and I need them whenever it's given. So again, accountant. Every end of the month, I would sit down with my accountant. She would crunch my numbers and get me a result. Okay, get me to see if I'm profitable, what's my company worth, the business ledger, the general ledger, balancing my sheets and so forth. She does it all for me. Okay. So basically what happens is that every end of the month, we would sit down together. She would do about 5 good days of work. and then I would pay her, $30,000 by the end of the year, or in small amounts. Same thing with website design. I would call the website designer. Website designer works on their own time, and basically the website designer would be taking around $10,000 from me. And then of course I don't want to be sued or go to jail. What do? I need to hire a lawyer, and the lawyer will update and ratify my documents, make sure that everything is in place and everything is okay. Now, as you can see, these people are professional. One is technical, one is, an accountant. They know the language of business and the math. The lawyer is legal. They don't make a lot, okay? $90,000, $100,000 is one's paycheck. So you may want to ask, how do these people, survive? How does this work for them? And I asked them, okay? And on a scenario of 10 other companies, I asked the accountant, and I told the accountant, am I your only portfolio? And she said to me, no, I have 10 other portfolios. So that means that I get paid $30,000 somewhere else as well from other people, 10 people. Okay. So they generate roughly $300,000. Website designer has like 10, 15 other customers. That means that he makes about 150,000. My lawyer, all right, also has 10 other customers. He makes a 500,000. Okay, so I was wondering, how do they drive fancy cars? And I realized, well, they drive pretty fancy cars because they outsource somewhere else. So basically, they work with me when I need them. Okay, if I was to hire them, easily an accountant would cost me in a range of $200,000. Okay, I wrote I was going to write it two here. A web designer about 120, and then a lawyer somewhere in the range of maybe 250 to 300. Okay, so $300,000 for a lawyer is quite steep. Okay, and mind you that on top of that, I need to pay them bonuses, EI, documents, legal, and so forth. It's going to be a very, very messy road. Okay. So it means that, if I was to generate $300,000 of revenue, okay, I would need at least or over $500,000 to hire these three individuals. I don't have that. Okay. I don't have that kind of money. So what I do as a result, I outsource them when needed. So when I need my lawyer, the lawyer can talk with me. The lawyer will take fees just to be my lawyer, and they would ratify new documents with me. Okay, agreements, documents, amendments. They do it for me. Okay, so as a result, instead of paying so much money for other individuals, everything can be outsourced. Okay, and to the extreme of outsourcing, you can outsource almost anything in your company. In fact, there's a company out there called Vizio. They make TVs and desktop monitors. They outsource everything. Okay, they go in, they outsource it, and the goal here is that by outsourcing, what they do a lot of times is that their goal is that they want to make sure that they can make a profit, like any company, but they give their technicalities, they give their items to other organizations to do. Okay, so for example, let's think about a very basic item we can make from manufacturing. We can make a reclining chair. And when you make a reclining chair, you have other companies that can work with you. Okay. So for example, you have a tool die firm that will color the chair. You have parts and suppliers that will give you the nuts and bolts. You have the manufacturer that will put it together. You can even outsource a project manager. Okay. And we'll talk about that in Unit 11. Some of my students, they, instead of going into companies, they were their own boss, and they started their own project management company, and they helped companies who are small become in the line of project management, help them out with specific tasks and projects. You also have catalog companies, inventories, legal firms, advertising firms, and marketing firms. Okay, so they can work together, but at the same time, they can also be very dysfunctional, meaning that the tool and die did not talk to the project manager on time. Project manager forgot to talk to inventory. Inventory had a problem with catalog. Catalog could not talk to manufacturing. Manufacturing and part suppliers did not get along. Legal is after everybody, and then advertising marketing firm do not know where they start and where they end. Okay, so this can be very dysfunctional. And what we need to do is we need to control this octopus. We need to make sure that our goal when we manufacture an item, we want to make sure that we can do a good job all together. So that means we need to have a good game plan in the beginning. And when we get create a good game plan, we want to make sure why we outsource and the benefits from it. Okay. So the company that I mentioned to you, Vizio, they do the exact same thing. Vizio TVs is a multi-billion-dollar company that only has less than 100 workers. Okay, what they do a lot of times is they focus primarily on making sure that their customers will get the product, but they give the items to other companies. They give consulting to other companies. They give the parts to other companies. Even the design team that makes the TVs, they're outsourced. So everything is outsourced. So if you have a TV that costs $1,000, they only take like a small margin. Like I would say maybe 2.5%. How much is 2.5% of 1,000? Maybe like $25, okay, per TV. Not a lot, but again, the rest of the money is made with the manufacturers and the outsourcing team. So basically, we're looking at like 97.5% of your profit of that TV is outsourced to the transportation, warehousing, logistic companies that you worked with. Okay. And the reason is that you're not specializing in it. You're specializing in one specific item. But in Vizio's case, they're not specializing in anything. Okay. And this sort of idea of outsourcing your work is nothing new. Okay. There are companies out there. Some of them are really big companies. They are, small, companies where you have, a person working in their basement, in their office, small house office, or in their garage of some sort. They work, and what they do is that they're outsourced. And the goal here is that because they're outsourced, the idea that they want to do is that they want to make a small little profit. Okay. But again, Vizio doesn't only sell one TV and makes 25 bucks. They sell hundreds of millions of TVs all over the world. Okay. So there's $25 all over the place for them to be made. Okay. And at the end of the day, they are a company that can generate for their own sake about $2.5 billion per year. Okay. So they're very, very successful. And this is the good side of outsourcing. But from my own perspective, even my own company, I've seen a couple of highs and lows when it comes down to outsourcing. And one of the things that I like about outsourcing, and one of the advantages I would say, is that when you look at the advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing, one of the things that is particular is cost reduction. Okay, like I mentioned to you, $200,000 for an accountant, 500,000, or sorry, 250 or $300,000 for a lawyer, in-house lawyer. We call them the counsel team, and then $120,000 for a website designer. All together, it's going to cost me roughly over $600,000. I don't got that kind of money. Okay, my company's small, only generates about $300,000 in revenue. So because I'm able to reduce the cost and they do the work as needed, it's perfect. Okay. And again, I do not need a full-time, website designer or accountant. Okay. I am good without them. All right. I just need my goal as a company is that I'm doing service. And if I hire these individuals, what kind of job will they be able to do for me? Okay. It's very complicated. So what we look for is that we want to have a faster project completion. We want to have a high level of expertise. Okay. People who are experts at what they do, not just that, we are doing a new project and then we realize we don't have that specific, caliber in our team. We also want to be flexible. So again, some projects you may even hire two accountants or multiple website designers to do the job for you. But with all things that we mentioned here, there is going to be a lot of problems. And one of the problems we see a lot of times is that there is a downside to outsourcing. Okay. Like we saw in the octopus, okay, with the chair, there's gonna be a lot of conflicts. Okay. People will have conflicts, coordination breakdowns, what will do, who will do it. People will have arguments and so forth. There's also loss of control because you outsource everything, and that means how do you make sure the quality is going to be in place. Okay. And again, take a company like Vizio TV. That company, they even outsource their quality control. So the quality control is done by another company. Okay. So who controls, like, who knows the real end result? And nobody does. Okay. And another problem is that because they outsource so much, and again, my assumption is they only make about 2.5% profit on their margin. What's stopping the other companies from saying, 2.5% is quite a lot of money, and when you look at it, it's about $2.5 billion per year. Why not just take out Vizio? We'll make our own company name, and we'll decide to operate as ourselves. And the answer is because, of course, Vizio has a name, and if you make a new name, it's hard to market that. So, nonetheless, of course, many of the companies, they rely on Vizio. Okay. Uh, Same thing when you do outsourcing. A lot of times you cannot take your manufacturers away. They need to be a part of it. And same thing with projects. You cannot just simply, let the main company go. Okay. So this is the same problem we have, and one of the biggest problems is that we have so many different people we have to manage, and we have to sit down with. So that loss of control may be a problem. There will be conflicts. People will be on each other's noses, and we mentioned that there is good conflict, which is functional conflict, dysfunctional conflict, which we want to not have. But many outsourcing projects end up being dysfunctional. There's also security issues where people know about confidential information, and that may put you in a very um, weird and particular position. And again, there may be also political hot potato going on, where sometimes you may have to deal with rumors, you may have to deal with people not doing their work and beyond. Okay, so there are downsides to outsourcing your work. But nonetheless, if you decide to outsource the work, it is your own call. And what you usually do is you do what we call either RFP or RFQ. RFP is request for proposal. RFQ, which you may hear it also, is request for quotation. Okay. So what will happen here is that there are steps to develop an RFP. Number one, what you would do is you would create a summary of what you need and request action of making sure that people will be able to do it. You break down what we call SOW, statement of works. You detail exactly the scope of what you're looking for, how you want to deliver it, how this will affect your project, and number three, the deliverable specifications requirement of the feature, the task, so that they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Okay. Then you will look at responsibilities. Okay, so you look at the vendor responsibilities, the customer responsibilities. You want to make sure that everybody knows what is needed to do. You want to make sure that everybody is on the right trail here. And of course, when you are putting the right trail together, you want to make sure that project schedules, cost and payment schedules are going to be made. You want to make sure that when you sign a request for proposal, people don't say, okay, I'm on board, but they ghost you afterwards. They literally just said, I have a contract and I'm not even going to, commit to the contract. Okay. So you have to give them a project schedule that if you do not meet our deadline by, say, June the 1st of this year, then you are disqualified. Okay. So you have to tell them exactly what the schedule is. You also have to tell them what the amount should be, the cost and the payment schedule. so that they know exactly when to meet the criteria, what type of contract you will be doing, okay, how you'll be doing that type of contract, and we'll talk about contractual agreements later on, and of course the subject matter expert, the experience and the staffing that will be hired, and how you will evaluate them at the end of the day. So if you decide to outsource some of your work, what's going to happen is that you're going to have to do a RFP. And then what would occur is that you're going to have multiple individuals who will come back to you and give you a specific amount of projects and proposals for your RFP. So now the question is, will you be interested to monitor them, and which one will you take? So you may get multiple proposals at the same time, and that's a given. So like multiple offers, you get multiple proposals, and you start to weigh them all together. Okay, so we did weighing analysis before, and in this particular weighing analysis, what you do is you look at your contractor qualifications. You want to make sure that they meet a certain criteria. And let's say you weight it out of 10. Technical skills and availability, 20. Understanding contract conditions, I guess it's a 5. I hope they understand something. Financial strength, 15. Understanding proposal specifications, request, 10. Innovation and originality proposal, 5. Reputation around the market, 15. And what the price that they'll charge, 20. So you get multiple proposals, and what you will do is you'll rank them. So you might get maybe something like 84, 86, 88, and 80. Okay. And now you realize that based on these numbers, it's a clear cut who will you pick. Okay. Maybe you'll pick, for example, number 3. But what you can also do, like any proposal, is you can go in and decide exactly which proposal you want to pick and how you want to pick it all together. So in this particular case, maybe technical skills are very, very important for you. Maybe also financial strength. I'll probably put it in the other I'll put it in the same category. Financial strength, reputation, okay, and also price. Okay. If you look at all these 4 items altogether, they give you a weight, okay, an easy weight of, we're looking at 40, 30, 70 points, okay? So this means that, if you're looking at other different variables, such as qualifications, oh, what was that? Oops, sorry. Qualifications, and you're looking at other different variables, what you can do is you can break them apart however you would like. Okay, so a lot of times you can break them apart on different variables. Some of them you can see that they're not as important as the first 4, but maybe, for example, contractor qualifications will be at a 10. That will be a little bit important. Okay, and beyond contractor qualifications that we have all together, there's also the other more micro items that might be important, such as understanding the contract, and of course, innovation and proposals. Okay, so it might mean that if you, for example, take number 1 out and try to look at other things, maybe, for example, proposal number 2 and 1 might be more attractive. Okay, but nonetheless, you have to look at a weighted chart and decide exactly which kind of area you want to be around when you're outsourcing. Now, please take into consideration when you're outsourcing your project work, you want to look at the best practices in outsourcing the project, and you want to make sure that it can work for you. So best practices in outsourcing project work is that you have to have a well-defined requirement and procedures all the time. Again, it all depends on the project. And in many cases, if you cannot do the project in-house, you want to give it to somebody else, but you want to make sure that they will do the work for you. So a well-defined requirement procedures should be made. There should be extensive training and team building activities, because you're bringing somebody from the outside to come to your position. And the idea here is that you're looking at team building exercises so that they can be a sync to your team, not a liability. So you build a well-established conflict management process in place so that if there's an issue, there's ways you can deal with it. You deal with frequent review and status updates. You want to make sure that everybody's in the same location or at least co-location when needed. You want to be able to give some bonuses like fair incentive contracts where if they perform really well, they do get rewarded. And again, we looked at it from Ajax perspective. Ajax, again, the company that we looked on from our last, midterm assignment. There is a lot of bonuses, and again, can you give these bonuses to your outsource team? And if that gets you the reward, then by all means, okay. Also, those companies that you work for, you want to create long-term outsourcing relationships. You want to make sure that if they succeed in working with you one time, maybe there's a good opportunity to create a long-term relationship. Because again, if you have to do an RFP, it may take you quite a long time. And unfortunately, it may mean that you have to start from scratch. And some people simply do not want to do that. They want to be able to work with somebody in the long term. Yeah, Mari, you had a question?
So yes, I do. With all of these things that are best practices and things that we need to look for, if the project manager himself is being outsourced, is this all fall then within the company itself, like management, like the actual stakeholder management, or is the project manager that it's outsourced himself look through all this stuff as well?
It could be broken down into two different categories. In the first case, there is the wider category of this is the project, this is what we need to do. And from a management perspective, we have to look at it from the management point of view that they want to get some value added. From the project manager point of view, they want to make sure that they can run it at the same time. So there is two kind of layers, two kind of tiers that you can put together, that there is a incentive program that the company does. And then if they outsource their project manager, for example, like Visio, Visio's project manager definitely wants to kind of take what management gives them and put it all in perspective. Nonetheless, don't forget that the project manager also gets written as well. The project manager will get a notification how well or how poorly they have done. So it's kind of a two-tier kind of appeal where, the management tells them, okay, this is our project, this is how much it costs. And if you would do the project, this is the reward. Then the project manager looks at it, says to themselves, okay, based on my leadership skills, I want to be able to make sure this can be done in 5 months from now. I want to be able to win the reward and eventually get some bonuses. Okay, so definitely they can kind of convert the bonuses that they were explained to when they accepted the outsource to the project team and let them know that there are kind of incentives being given as well. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So what you can look at here is that whenever we look at the key differences between outsourcing and traditional project, the approach is that when you're managing a contract relationship, it may be different. So from a partnership perspective, we want to make sure that we can have a long-term relationship happening. Long-term relationship is a benefit to everyone, and we want to make sure that we can have a good relationship altogether. So the idea here is when you look at partnership tells us that you want to create a relationship to build mutual trust altogether. You want to create a relationship that creates goals and shared goals and objectives. But usually in traditional approach, it's not the same. People are suspicious. There's distrust altogether. Each party doesn't trust each other. Motives are different. Definitely each party's goal is different and objective. Again, when you think about it, when you get a contract, for many people, survival. They don't really care about, who gets the end result here. They just care that they get a paycheck. Okay, so everybody has their own objective. Some people may want to look for long-term contracts, sure, but other people just want to get in, get out, and do the job. Other people, they look at partnership from a joint perspective. So project team exists with high level of interaction and expectation. Traditional is that everybody works independent in a project. They work in different interactions. And of course, when you look at communications as well, partnership fosters open communication, where traditional communication is structured and guarded. So if you have a problem or an issue in a project, definitely you have to go through the hierarchy to talk to top management. And partnership also can foster long-term commitment. So it provides opportunity to create continuous improvement, continuous work. Traditional, however, is that you go into a project, it's a single project, you're done the project, and then you leave. But definitely objectives are always different as well. Objective is that it's geared towards the assessment of the performance. So you look at how well you've done, and definitely that can open the door for you. But in traditional, even though you do a really good job, it's very limited. And usually, if you object to it and you decide that there is problems, but maybe those problems should be heard. Unfortunately, there is some fear of reprisal going on, and some people just say, "Well, I'll just follow with the flow," and that could be an issue. And that's where again, the project manager should inform many leaders and many team members that there is a incentive going on. And sometimes if there's an incentive, people will raise their hand, people will have more communications and will be a part of the more bigger onset in a project team. Also, total company involvement requires commitment from everybody in partnership. So it means everybody is on the same boat here, from the CEO to the team members. They're all working together, but not the same in traditional, where involvement is very limited. So that's where it becomes a problem, where some people know that the project exists in the company, other people do not. And usually in traditional, we talk about tasks that take place, and costs and delays will also be a problem. But in partnership, you have a system that will go in place, and hopefully people will be part of that integration. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to risk in partnership, risk is shared jointly. Everybody is on the same boat here, and they encourage innovation, motivation, and continuous improvement. But usually in traditional approach, it's only transferred to another individual. So sometimes when you outsource, you just send the risk to another company and say, well, if the company fails, it's their problem, not our problem. And that's where, innovation and ideas do not happen. So if you are communicating in outsourcing your company, one of the four strategies that I do recommend to do here is that in the strategy, you do have to recognize that there will be different company cultures. And again, when you look at my three teammates that I work with that I outsource, they're all different. Okay. The website guy, he's a night owl. He would work very late at night, wake up at like the afternoon. So if I was to finish our class and then I would call that individual, most likely that individual is not going to be awake. Okay, so he's going to be still asleep. He has this kind of weird relationship. He likes to use Viber and WhatsApp. Hardly goes on Teams, and it's a little bit complicated to talk with him. But nonetheless, does the job. He does a really good job for me. The lawyer, he has his own office, and I would probably go in there face to face meet. Accountant, they're very diligent, so a lot of things. They would give me a Excel spreadsheet and tell me, look at the Excel spreadsheet, and they will give me points on it. And usually we do it by Zoom or MS Teams. So definitely you have to build and recognize different cultures when you outsource and respect them. And also you have to choose the right words, because sometimes if you're way too technical or way too customer oriented, it may create a kind of combustion and some problems along the way. You request you confirm your requirement. You want to make sure that what is being done is being done, and most importantly, set the deadline, set goals. Okay, make sure that you do not give them a project and they then say, sure, I'll do the project, and nonetheless, they won't do it. Okay. So again, when I approach my accountant knows that by the last month, the 20th, sorry, the 28th, by the 31st of this particular month and the 30th in April, they have to meet my deadline. Okay, I need to see where I stand. I need to be able to give my documentation to government officials, what I do in my business practice, CRA, and make sure everything is done. Okay, same thing with the web designer. I set the goal. I tell them what's needed. I tell them how it's needed, what the reward will be. And of course, I tell them the due dates, okay, so that they will meet all together. They don't work together per se, all three individuals, but what they do a lot of times is that they can also form what we mentioned, project charter. Okay, so a lot of times with in a outsourced team, you can also develop a project charter as a project manager to kind of control the team altogether. So I want to give you an example of how a project charter kind of looks like. In this particular case, a project charter or a partnering charter was there for building the F-22 fighter jets. This particular one had a couple of companies, and it showed you their leaders. So you had the U.S. Air Force F-22 CTFs, whatever it was. 411 fleets, Edwards Air Force Space Civil Engineers, Computer Science Corporation, which is outsourced, Lockheed Martin, Telecom Solutions, U.S. Army Corps, Venezuela Engineering, and VRR and Associates. Okay, so basically, you have multiple companies come together building a U.S. Air Force jet fighter, and they write down what their commitment is. They sign it, and it says that we, the partners of F-22 design and construction team, recognize the unique nature of this project, the commitment of creating an environment of trust, communication to design and build a quality project which meets or exceeds customer expectation requirements. We commit to maintaining a positive, optimistic work environment in which all partner goals can be achieved. And to do so, they write down their objective. Their objective is they want a quality project. They want to meet the requirement of the F-22 support system, complete the schedule within the costing constraints, and you can probably see it all together. Incorporate lessons learned from the other projects of F-22s, create an environment that's fair and reasonable, create an enjoyable environment, create a safe environment so that no lost time of accidents, nobody loses their fingers or hands, provide a safe environment, maintain a positive cooperative relationship, clear open communications through appropriate channels, no surprises, no hidden agendas, no taboos, no minimal delays of paperwork, resolve problems quickly and efficiently at the lowest levels. All right. So what they did is they have the sign it, they put it together, they put in a plaque, and every single day that you walk into the office, you will see it. Okay. And you will see it, you can read it, and you have to make sure you abide by it. Okay, so this is some of the tasks, some of the scenarios that some companies have done in order to make sure that the project is going as needed. But you need to go beyond that, especially from a project management perspective. You need to create maybe surveys to make sure that everybody's going in the right direction. The surveys, of course, can be very basic, but you can look and learn a bit and evaluate a little bit more about the attitudes, the process, and collect more information about the participants on what they do and how they do it. So in Together, you can create an online survey, maybe go to SurveyMonkey or MS Forms and be able to create it. So things like communication between the owner and the contract personnel. Is it very difficult to communicate with people, or is it open? You want to see it and how well it's been done. Top management support. Is it obvious that top manager supports us or doesn't? You can put it at a scale 1 to 5. Problems, issues, and concern. Is it attacked promptly or is it neglected? You can rank it all together. Cooperation between owner and contractor personnel. Is it genuine, unreserved, and complete, or is it very cool, very cold, detached, even unresponsive? Okay. And when it comes to response time to the problem, is the issues of concern done frequently? Is it treated as project problems, or is it neglected? Is it more of a personal issue, or is a project being treated as a team? You want to make sure that this can be done. And this is very important, guys, especially when you are starting a project, because a lot of times there are advantages of starting these types of surveys and making sure that if the teammates, as we saw in the partnership charter, can work together, then for future F-22 fighter jets, they can also work in the future as well. So again, the advantages of, as I mentioned, of long-term partnership is number one, reducing administrative costs. When you saw the example of ranking and weighing the companies that give you proposals, these take time and these will cost you money. Okay, and the end result is you never know exactly what you're going to get with the new customer, with the new partners. So you want to make sure that if you find a good partner, you want to keep them. Okay, you want to keep them and work with them long term. Look at my company again. If I was to let one of my free outsourced workers leave, I do not know how to find either new specific individuals for that task. Okay. And most times, a lot of times, what would happen is that most companies would find another person who's more efficient and more inexpensive. Okay. So, if I was to, let my accountant go, all of a sudden I have to find a new accountant and I have to find a specialist who can work with me. Okay. My accountant has been working with me for like 6 years. Okay. And I need that person to be able to crunch the numbers. They know my company inside and outside. They know exactly what my expectation are. They know exactly everything. And if I was to bring a new person in, it might take me about maybe 2, 3 months, maybe even 6 months for them to understand the learning curve, to understand what my company does and how it does it. Same thing with the website designer. Okay, all of a sudden, website design is like an art. You bring in a new person, they might not give you what's needed, and that could also be a problem. And last but not least, my lawyer. I gotta explain. My lawyer's my friend. Okay, so it's I don't want to really let my friend go. So definitely, I need a lawyer, and definitely, if I find a new lawyer, they might charge me more. They might not do what it's needed, not focus on attention to detail. It could be a problem. Okay, so if you find the right people, you find the right team, even though they're not part of your company, hold them together. Keep them as strong as possible. Also, you have to become more efficient and utilize your resources. So you want to make sure that they can do the job and what's needed. And in the long term, you can improve things like communication, you can improve innovation and performance. Okay, so sooner or later, you give them tasks, they'll do it quicker, faster, more agile, and can make sure that the project is going to be done successfully. Okay, so a lot of times, and oh, do I have the book here? 1 second. Do I have the book? Hold on, let me look at it. No, 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 no. Is that the book? Where did I keep the book? Okay. I was gonna show you a book that I have with me, and I don't have it. Bummer, bummer. Okay. But nonetheless, I have a book that's written, and it's called The Art of the Negotiation. And what it shows, and I cannot believe do not have it in my shelf. Somebody took it from me. Okay. Um, but what I want to show you is the art of negotiation. And in the art of negotiation, the art of the negotiation is a process in which an individual will go in and try to negotiate a best approach. And usually when you outsource, negotiation is a big, big task. So the approach of negotiation was championed by two Harvard professors called Professor Fisher and Professor Uring from the Harvard Negotiation Project. Both of these professors emphasize developing a win-win solution while hopefully protecting themselves against those who take advantage of their fort righteousness. Okay, so the whole book, it's a whole big book about understanding the idea of negotiation. But when you separate the four key points of the book, they want to tell you about separating people from the problem. So don't attack people. Don't create dysfunctional relationships. Create, there is a problem. It's not a people problem. It's not a person problem. It's a project problem. So you have to separate that altogether. Another focus on the book was to focus on the interest, not the position, where you do not agree, but focus on what is the interest of the project itself. Don't say that, well, I do not want to do it. I want to do it this way. Focus on what the benefit is. Invent options for mutual gains. So come up with new ideas. Okay. Don't just sit there and say, well, this is where I sit. I'm not going to agree with you. And I don't care what you say. Come to a conclusion. And again, when possible, use something called the objective criteria, which was introduced in the book. So in the end of the day, if you read the book, and hopefully if I find the book, that's another big task. I think it's in my pile of junk here. And hopefully I may find it in our break. Fisher and Yuri recommended a couple of things. They call it the jujitsu approach when dealing with a very hard person, a person who is hard to negotiate. And what the jujitsu approach says to us in dealing with unreasonable people is when the other person begins to push you and put you in a corner, don't push back, okay? Don't retaliate because that will create a dysfunctional situation. Ask questions instead of making a statement, okay? Don't say, I want it this way. Well, why do you want this way? How do you want this way? How do we get to that criteria? Try to invite some criticism and advice instead of defending your position. Definitely say, well, what can we do better? How can we do better? Instead of being on your other side and trying to defend your proposition. And the best approach that they came up with is use the art of silence as a response to unreasonable proposals. So when unreasonable proposals come in, be silent, be quiet, and try to give your best approach altogether. So altogether, their BATNA, they call it best alternative to negotiate agreement. Uri and Fisher came up with a strong BATNA that gives you the power to walk away and say no deal unless we work together on a win-win scenario. Okay, so sometimes you can come together and say, let's work together on making sure that we can win and make the customer, the project happy at the end of the day. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions for me? Anybody have any questions up until now? It's clear. Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. You had a question? Mana? Yeah. Mana?
Hello, Professor. Can
Hello.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Professor, just I want to ask you about means title which I want to work for final paper.
Okay. You have a new proposition?
Yeah, can I send inbox for you to see if it's okay to work on or not?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to send me an email, we can do that, and definitely I can give you an approval on it.
Okay, Professor. I will do that after class.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. All right, perfect. Again, guys, just so you guys know, if you have a new idea for your final paper, let me know. If you want to use the 6 ideas I gave you, awesome. You don't have to tell me anything about it. But please, guys, don't leave it to last minute, because if I open your document and see there is a whole new topic here, I may scratch my head and said, what is going on here? And then that will not be a good situation. All right, so let's take a break, guys. The time right now is, in my clock, 7:10. Let's take a break till 7:20. Be back. Okay, I'll give you 10 minutes. Don't leave the Zoom class. We'll finish up unit number 9 and officially have 2 more classes left. Yes, 2 more classes, 10 and 11, and hopefully finish on a good term here. So please be back at, and let me put my pen here. Please be back at 7:20 and we will restart. I will look for the book and have a good break. All right. Take it easy. And I'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye for now. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Guess what? I did my due diligence. I did my research, and I did some digging. And guess what I found? Ta-da! I found the book. This is the book that Yuri and Fisher were talking about in our last class, Getting to Yes. Okay. The funny thing is, I mentioned to you that there is a way to get books for free online. This book's actually free online. Okay. This book is I got this. This is probably the 1990 edition, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this book right here, guys, is The Art of Negotiation and Getting to Yes. Definitely, I would recommend you reading it. Written, of course, by William Ury, Roger Fisher, the Harvard Negotiation Project. This was actually the second edition that I have right in my hands. But it's very, very nice to read over. It was actually a national bestseller when it came out. And it did help a lot of people understand how negotiation works in different scenarios, political negotiation, business negotiation, family negotiation, whatever negotiation you believe in or you want to be dealing with, this helps you. Okay. So definitely if you want to take a grab on it, even if you do a search online, you may find it. Okay. So definitely this is a genuine asset and was in my pile of nonsense here. But I found it for you guys, okay? And I'll put it back nicely in my wherever I can find some space here. Okay, so welcome back everybody to our second half of our class. I hope that you guys are having yourselves a good day and things are going up your alley. So I want to talk a little bit about managing customer relationships when it comes to outsourcing. Please remember that before we talk about any other important topics, um, managing customer relationship is always different. Every customer has different expectations. Bad news travels faster and farther than good news. Project managers need to cultivate a positive working relationship with their customers in making sure that they can preserve their reputation, because a lot of times you do a lot of good things, but the bad things is the one that people really care about. That's a that's a given. Customer satisfaction is basically a function of the extent to which perceived performance or outcome will exceed your expectation. And usually that's where we talk about the met expectation model. The met expectation model is a model to understand exactly a mathematical output to decide exactly if the customer is happy with you or not. Okay. And it's very basic, but you have different variables to add together. The met expectation model of customer satisfaction highlights the point that whether a client is dissatisfied or not, or even delighted with a project, is not based on hard facts and objective data, but on perception and their expectation, what they perceive you're doing and what is expected of them. So project managers always have to be on the cusp of making sure that they have the skills at managing customer expectations and perceptions at the end of the day. So what this means is that in the met expectation model, what you have a lot of times is that you have either three different scenarios you can be in. Basically, you look at your perceived performance and divide it by your expected performance. And what happens a lot of times is that under your perceived performance, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be hopefully going above and beyond, or at least breaking even. So basically, if performance falls short of expectation, where the ratio is below the 1 percentile, the customer is not happy. Okay, something you're doing is not making the customer happy with your performance. And if the performance matches the met expectation model, meaning that the customer is satisfied, you're doing what's needed, you're hitting the ground, the quality is on top of it, you're doing a good job, you meet everything altogether. But in some cases, what if you're saving the customer money? What if your schedule is ahead of its time? What if you're doing something added that will wow the customer? Okay. Then if performance exceeds expectation, the customer now is not only satisfied, but very satisfied, very happy, and even delighted at your work. Okay. So usually the kind of the number here is that you don't want to be below 0.99. If you have like a 0.90, you're having a unhappy customer, you want to have the 100 percentile. And the same thing that you want to hit the 1%, one percentile, but sometimes you may want to go above and beyond. And again, we talked about some scenarios you can do that in our class, where you can actually be able to meet a customer expectation. Okay. And if you have extra time on your hands in a project, how do you make sure that this project will help you in the end? Well, definitely you can make sure that the project is hopefully gonna make the customer a little bit happy. Okay. And sometimes saving money makes people happy. Sometimes, getting a statue in the middle of the construction, that does it for everybody. It's all different. You're dealing with a mixed nut of people here. So a lot of times, how do you manage customer expectation? A lot of times, please remember that you want to avoid the temptation to oversell the virtues of a project to the approval. Definitely lower customer expectations by underselling a project. You want to work closely with the client organization to develop a well-defined project scope statement, share significant risk or potential problems that might disrupt the project execution, keep customers afloat on the project progress and make sure that the progress is being made. Definitely be able to handle customer interactions openly, interact with them with any unexpected issues or problems, any setbacks with the competent and make sure the compliance and professional manner should be given. Speak in only one voice. Don't let other people speak on your behalf. Speak the language of the customer as well, which is very important. A lot of times, yourselves, you probably have smartphones. Smartphones are very complicated. Okay, if I tell you all the technicalities, there's different degrees of technicalities, like the installation technicality, the operating system technicality, um, getting to your telecom, network technicality. It's all different. Okay, but if you speak the language that sells the product and make sure that when you're selling a condominium, you're selling condominium at the heart of the city. You're not adding prisms and architectural platforms and engineering marvels on it. You're giving the customer what's needed. Okay. How many of you bought a house or a condominium and know exactly the drywalling that's being done or the layout that's being done? Not many. Okay. And again, it's not that you're not focusing on what you bought, but the focus was that the company that sold the item for you, they sold it in your language, where you saw that there was an investment. You saw that it was your your next expectation. You saw that it meets your dwelling criteria. Okay. And as a result, that is the language that you may want to discuss. So again, differently when you're doing outsourcing, there's going to be different roles that a project manager will fit in, and challenging the strategies that you will also take. So usually in many roles, you may be an entrepreneur. Okay. Entrepreneur, the idea of entrepreneur is that you navigate unfamiliar territory and surroundings around you. And some of the strategies is to be persuasive and try to influence other people. So you can actually imagine if you're doing a project that nobody else heard about, nobody else have done, and you go out there, you're in a new territory. Okay. And you're the one who has to tell everybody that this particular project is going to be important, is going to be the right area. Okay. So a lot of times we have to understand that there are different scenarios for project managers, including being a politician even. Okay. Understanding two diverse cultures. So a lot of politicians, for example, namely, maybe we'll pick John Tory, if you guys know who John Tory is. John Tory, former mayor of Toronto. Okay. They have to focus on what we call the parent and the client organization. The parent, he has to focus with other politicians and talk about rules and regulations, but he has to be a people person. Okay. And the people person is that the client, which is the public, they have to be in the same area. So you have to align with powerful individuals, and you have to make sure you can satisfy everybody. You can also be a friend to other people, determine the importance of relationship building and sustain outside the team itself. and strategies. You also have to identify common interests, common goals, and experience creating a bridge of friendship with your client, not just sitting down and talking numbers, data, and outputs. Okay. You can also be a marketer. Okay. Understand strategic objectives with the client and the organization. Try to come up with new ideas, new proposals with strategic objectives of the client organization, and even coach people. Okay. Motivate individuals, coach them, create a client team membership without formal authority, and create to become a cheerleader. Okay. Provide a challenging task and building the skills that team members may need at the end of the day. Okay. So some key terms that we mentioned for today that I do want to highlight here. We mentioned a little bit about the BATNA approach. BATNA is best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Okay. And BATNA says to us that according to this guy right here, BATNA includes us saying that we want to get to yes, but we do not want to get to a yes where it becomes hostile. Okay. And sometimes we may have to escalate the situation and decide on how we would like to go ahead. We talked about a met expectation model where you bring different variables together, add them, and you realize that your project is according to what's perceived and what's expected. It's going above and beyond for the customer. And that is something that we would definitely like to do. Other times, it might not always be the same. And in some scenarios, what will occur is that under BATNA, you can meet the expectations and be able to get to what is needed by the customer. But you have to give different variables based on quality, based on scheduling, based on time, and beyond. Okay. If you want to meet the expectation model at the 1 percentile, quality is as predicted. The budget was allocated properly. The schedule was done properly, and there was no problems. And again, our whole topic for today was outsourcing. There are going to be scenarios where you need to outsource. I outsource. You all outsource. Okay. If you cannot drive, you outsource. You take a bus. Okay, that's outsourcing. Use the public transportation. Okay, and every company I can even think about does some form of outsourcing one way or another. Okay. Even Yorkville. Okay. Yorkville, they're looking for instructors. They outsource. They find instructors. They find people who are legitimate. Okay. They go out there and find individuals. And in a company, it's the same exact thing. Okay, you can outsource a lot of your project tasks. Especially, like I mentioned, my favorite project is the bridge. You need specialists who can make a bridge, okay, who know a lot about underground construction, underwater construction, who know a lot about physics, who know a lot about different scenarios. Make sure that they could be able to do it, make sure they can be outsourced, and make sure that you can work on it together. We talked about project charter and partnering charter. Definitely use charter as well in outsourcing. Outsourcing doesn't have project charter, but has a partnering charter where definitely you can have the same exact notion and be able to put it down together. And like I showed you for the F-22 fighter jets, this was a good situation where multiple companies, multiple departments came together and work on a common problem. Then, of course, we have principal negotiation and the art of negotiation. We talked about Batna and Yuri and Williams, Yuri and Fisher's model. And then, of course, if you decide to do outsourcing, definitely you can create an RFQ, RFP to make sure you can do it all together. So again, in procurement on the management process, definitely please remember there's a couple of different tasks we need to look for. And definitely in the procurement of the management process, we need to plan, purchase, and acquire different areas, different planning contracts that need to go in, requesting responses from our sellers and our customers, selecting the right sellers, and administering a contract. And hopefully when administering and evaluating a contract, closing the contract and making sure that the contract is going to be in place. So nonetheless, when you create an RFP, please remember that contract is very important. A contract, in most cases, is a formal agreement between two parties to make sure that the parties know exactly what they have to do and what they have to do it. One of the parties is the contractor that obligates itself to perform a service, and the other is the client that obligates itself to do something in return, usually in a form of money. All right. Meaning that if you do a job for me, I will pay you the money. Very simple. All right. You guys sign a contract with me in the beginning of the semester. All right. You attend the class, you do well, you get the most out of it, and you get a mark. You get a credit. Okay. But then again, the mark can be variable in different aspects. Some people will get a high of 90s, other people will get a low of 50s. Okay. How does that work? Okay. And again, it's the same way we do a contract. Okay. That you commit to the integrity, commit to the agreement, and codify yourself. Okay. In this case, a contract is a codification of what we call the business law, private business law, which will govern the relationship between both parties. Okay. And a contract will define who's responsible for it. And in this case, in project management, we define the schedule that's responsible, the time, and the cost. Okay. We will spell out the conditions of the operation, what you need to know, what you don't need to know, what you can do, what you cannot do, and the right of the parties to have a relationship with one another. Okay. To make sure that when the party is done, when they need to leave, how they need to leave it, and what do we need to do. Okay. And again, if we do not meet the scenarios, how do we create remedies? Okay. What happens if you do not meet the scenarios? What happens, for example, if you do not meet the deadline? Okay. What kind of remedies, what kind of solutions might be there if the party breaches its obligation? Okay. So again, contracts are very important. And a good example of that is when you look at TTC versus Bombardier. Um, we kind of saw that as, I would say, a very similar situation with what happened in Ajax, where you have a project, and the project was that we needed streetcars, and we outsourced it to Bombardier. We gave them the responsibilities, the criteria, and so forth, but Bombardier did not meet our specifications. Okay, and there was delay after delay after delay, and at the end of the day, we had to redecide what the remedies are. And some of the remedies was to give us in small portions the cars, and even that was delayed. And then it turned out that there was penalties. Okay, and the penalties was that if they did not meet our terms, and the term was that they had to give us the streetcar by a certain time, then the penalties will come in. Interest, the fact that we're missing out, the fact that we hire trainers and they cannot be trained. Even when we have the old streetcars, rest in peace, those old streetcars needed to be maintained. Okay, so that means that the old streetcars had to get maintenance and the tools to maintain them, to build them, and have them go into the shop. That cost us money as well. Okay, so who built that? It was Bombardier. So Bombardier got a contract for billions of dollars, and then at the end of the day, Bombardier also had to realize that at the end of the day they could have made more, but unfortunately they did not meet it. And the question now is, why did they not meet the contract? And possibly being is that they could not outsource the work properly. Okay. Maybe it could have been that they need more workers and they didn't have more workers. Okay. So that was one of the scenarios, and there was a lot of problems altogether. But definitely, if you have a good contract, a contract can help you as either a contractor or a client. So let's look at some of the contracts that are available for us. One of the contract is a fixed price contract, where a contractor agrees to perform all the work needed in a contract at a fixed price. Okay, we have fixed and variable price. Fixed price means that I write down on the RFP that this project is $100,000 and you have to do it within $100,000. That is a fixed price. Okay. But a fixed price contract is preferred by both owners and contractors. And when the scope of the project is well defined with predictable cost and low implementation risk, that is usually what fixed price is. When you as a project manager know exactly what costs and what's needed and how you can predict it, then definitely fixed price is very attractive. The only downside of fixed price contracts is that the contract for the owner is that it's more difficult and more costly to prepare because you have to have all the necessary criteria to predict how much it will cost. Another low part about a fixed price contract is that for contractors, they run the risk of underestimating it. Okay, so they underestimate what the fixed price contract is, and unfortunately, it may be below what they expected. Okay, but in the long term, contracts with long lead times, such as construction contracts for buildings, um, uh, warehouses, infrastructure, and so forth, production projects may include escalation provisions in a contract that protects the contractor from outside cost increases and material, labor, overhead expenses. So in some scenarios, what can happen here is that you may have a fixed plus contract where in a fixed plus contract, you're going to agree to $100,000. But then after a few months or years, you may come back and say, listen, labor went up, materials went up, overhead went up, when you have to negotiate it. And how do you negotiate, guys? Where's Uri and Fisher? You read this book, guys. You read this book and you figure out how to best negotiate a new agreement altogether. Then the other side of a contract can be a cost plus contract. This is more in line with the outsource individual you give. Cost plus contract is that you're gonna open an RFP, but there's no set amount. Okay, the contractor is reimbursed for all direct allowable costs at first, material, labor, and travel, plus any additional fee to cover overhead and profit. So basically, you're opening an RFP, RFQ, but the amount that you're going to give is blank. Okay, it's going to be negotiated at the end. So when you compare fixed price to cost plus contract, usually in cost plus contract, you have a huge burden risk on the client because the contract does not indicate when a project is going to cost until the end of the project. Okay, so think about it like a restaurant. A restaurant has, the one of the worst things I hate about a restaurant, it has no fixed price. You just eat, and then they'll give you the amount, and it's gonna be negotiated. Okay, and maybe they're gonna negotiate that the catch of the day is gonna be like $80, and you don't feel like it's cost $80. You feel like it's like $20. Okay, so that's a weakness of a cost plus contract. A weakness of a cost plus contract is that when you look at compensation for a variety of incentive clauses directed at providing contractors with control cost, maintenance performance, and avoiding schedule overruns, it may be a problem. Okay. So a lot of times what would occur is that you're in the back of your head, the contract probably costs you 100,000, but then your the one that made you the contract, then they come up with a number like 150,000, and now it becomes a little bit of a problem to decide which one is correct. So the way that you kind of break down fixed price and fixed contract and cost contract is that you have different scenarios altogether, but you also have to remember that there is incentives out there. So when you look at these two sides of a contract type and the risk involved, the highest risk for a buyer of a contract is a cost plus percentage of contract. A cost plus contract will tell us that there's no cost altogether, okay, but you wait till the end. So it's very low for the seller. It's the seller just does a job, pays for it, makes a margin, and gives you the bill, okay? But then you can also say that, you know what, in the back of my head, I have different scenarios, how much it will cost. If you come up with the best scenario, then there will be a reward for you, okay? Some incentive fees, we call it, okay? Maybe bonuses that we can give by management. Possibly we can give you more contracts. Possibly we can put you in another tier. We can do all sorts of things, okay? But if you're gonna give me a project that costs $100,000 and then tell me, for example, that it's really 150, That's the extreme side. Okay. And in the extreme side, that might not always work. Okay. So if you're going to give me maybe 105,000, maybe I realize that your intuition is okay. And then I will tell you, well, it was really 120, but I'm going to give you, a cut on the bonus. And that's something rewarding. Okay. So that is a good term to be in. Okay, definitely a good scenario to be in. A scenario that's very low for a buyer is usually a fixed price contract. On a fixed price contract, it's very exciting for a buyer than a seller. A seller pays a lot more. Think about it as a long-term contract. We looked at it from, if you remember, net present value from a couple of classes ago. All of a sudden, you go into a contract, and that contract, it tells you that the contract is, $100,000 today, 2023, but then the contract will mature at 2026. So the whole price will change. Materials will change, labor will change, everything will change. And it turns out that now the price is going to be a little bit higher. So as a result, what happens here is that the price is now 260,000. So it means that you sign a contract for $100,000, and can I use the word here? Can I use the word? Oh no, 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 no. You're screwed. I don't want to say it. You're screwed. You're screwed for it. Okay. You have to do this project at the quality, at the time, at $100,000, but it's going to cost you like double that. Okay. So you hit a little bit of a shenanigans. Okay. How do you protect yourself? You can do a fixed price incentive where you have clause that says, listen, I agree that we deal in a world with inflation, stagnation, recession, boom, bust, and so forth. Maybe give some fixed price contract. Okay. And the fixed price contract is give incentives that says, you know what, you can go over, that's okay, but don't go way too over. All right. So if you go over like 260,000, we have to figure out how you had that. But if you go a little bit over and you do it maturely and we know exactly what the outcome is, that won't be a problem. Okay. So what I recommend, if you ever sign a contract, these two parameters right here might be the best area, but the question now is, which one would you pick? Okay. And the answer is, well, go back to the Uri Fisher model and see what the best scenario will give you. Okay. All right. Beyond that, guys, what I also want to talk to you guys is how to control your contract and the system to control it. So, Mari, you had a question?
Can can a seller, or I don't know, whatever this person is, can they just walk away and break the contract? If like
There might be
becomes
penalties.
ridiculous?
There might be penalties. But you have to, again, when you look at signing a contract, please remember that when you go into a contract, any form of contract there's remedies. So I mentioned to you, Mari, and if you're familiar with it, if you live in the GTA area, DTC versus Bombardier was a very, very hot topic, a hot potato everywhere
Yes, we
in the
couldn't
last,
fire them.
sorry?
The city of Toronto couldn't fire Bombardier.
Yeah.
Bombardier sued them because they wanted to be like the city of Toronto wanted to fire them, and then Bombardier was like breach of contract. It was just a mess.
It was a complete gong show, okay? And it was a lot of, I would say, most of the blame here was expectations from the city of Toronto, which might be a problem, but it was mostly on Bombardier. Bombardier was taking a contract that they could not hold. It's almost like saying to you, I'm going to give you a contract as a worker, but then you have multiple contracts. They say, you know, I can handle it, but you only have 40 hours in a day. 40 hours a week to work, and now you're working like 120 hours. That's extreme. Okay. So what happens here is that this is the same scenario in Bombardier, where unfortunately they created a contract and you want to walk away from it. And if you walk away from it, what happens a lot of times is you may have a breach of contract, and that's where you have to create remedies. So when you grant remedies, you grant situations where maybe in 30 days, if you're not happy with the contract, you can walk away from it. Okay. But if you walk away later on, you may have to pay a certain penalty. Okay. And that's where the City of Toronto was looking for. Basically, the City of Toronto was looking for them to compensate them on maintenance. Okay. And the fact that we had the older streetcars, they wanted to compensate them and make sure that they pay for it. And ironically, the worst part here is that the streetcars are made by Bombardier, the older ones. So basically, Bombardier was getting more business making the old streetcars, and we're like, that's not a bad situation to be in. But they had to maintain the old streetcars in order to make the new streetcars more functional. And that
Did we
was a
ever
little
get
bit.
the new streetcars?
Yeah. We got them later on, but we're talking about like a contract that started in like 2012, and it was probably going to be done by 2017. When 2017 came along, all of a sudden, like nothing really happened, and we're like, what's going on here? So between 2017 and 2019, we were getting them really, really slow, and then Toronto just put the foot down and said, listen, we need these streetcars as soon as possible. And they brought a mediator together. They brought different scenarios, and the worst part here is that like there was talks about there's two sides here. Okay, Bombardier, their their wrong was that you need to outsource. You need to bring in more people. You need to stop saying that Thunder Bay or North Bay, wherever they make them, the streetcars, make them in Quebec, make them in Europe, make them somewhere, but don't just focus on a small task. Okay, so they were thinking small, but this was a big contract. So again, you're talking about a company that took on a huge project when they should not have done that early on. That's one. Number two, Toronto on the other side was they have that buy Canadian mentality, so they wanted to help a Canadian company. So one of the problems that exists here was that they had RFPs and RFQs coming from American companies and even European companies. So there was a Belgian company that was really, really good, and we could have went with them, but unfortunately we went with Bombardier because it was more beneficial for us, right? Especially for politicians. They can always say, hey, we focus on, the Canadian industry, and that could have helped us. So there's a scenario that maybe in the next round, maybe you should diversify a little bit. Maybe you should have half Canadian, half Belgian, something like that, and definitely make sure that uh, oversee in the end that Bombardier could do the job at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a very, very weird contract, and this was a good example of a project, okay, where you started 10 years ago, and after the 10 years was done, could the project be done? And it wasn't, and there was no incentives afterwards, okay, and unfortunately, maybe it could have been done much better than it should have. Yeah, Milad, you had a question?
I just wanted to add on the Bombardier. Every single time that they were delaying their project, they were getting more funds from City of Toronto and from the Quebec, as where the
That
headquarters
makes
was there as
sense.
well. Some of
Yeah.
the points that they mentioned for the delay was the door mechanism, that it was not working, the software integration, the sensors were not working with the door mechanism to open and close automatically. So for
Mhm.
that, they delayed the whole project for about like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
brutal. And yeah, it was the doors. Milad, do you remember about the tracks as well? There was a problem with the
yeah,
tracks, like
yeah.
the skid and everything. It was just a scenario. It's like you could have just put the old ones in, but again, I'm not an engineer in that scenario.
Even the
But
overhead ones, Professor, that the wires that overhead in the old streetcars, the TTC driver will come up and do it manually, shift it
oh
from
yeah,
one to line to another. And
that
this
was
one,
awesome.
they projected to be digital. I'm
Yes,
sorry, to be automatic. So
yes.
the mechanism they built will automatically shift, but it was not working, and there was a lot of sparks and stuff. So
Oh my
it was
God, yeah.
crazy.
It was one messed up situation after another. Okay. And definitely at the end of the day, those in City Hall, they have to reconsider um in the next round, should we bring Bombardier into the RFPs or should we not? And I think, in my opinion, political opinion, that I read the Star and so forth. I'm guessing that it's going to be broken down in multiple acquisitions. So Bombardier is still going to be a player here, even though people are going to tell you Bombardier is not the best. And at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that the Belgian company may get hopefully, an opportunity to break into the Canadian economy, in the Canadian transportation sector.
They were bankruptcy in 2015. They were within the verge of bankruptcy, but the Quebec government bailed them out. Otherwise, the
Bombardier,
Bombardier was gone.
yeah.
But
Bombardier has a lot of situation, a lot of issues, and I mean, this particular one, they got such a huge loan, and I think nobody really wants Bombardier to fail. Okay, Bombardier is such a huge company for Canada, and when you think about Bombardier failing, it means that a lot of municipalities rely on them. So it's kind of like if they fail, then what? Okay, and it comes back to long-term relationships we talked about today. Um, this relationship we have with Bombardier may not be the best, but at the end of the day, it helps the Canadian economy. A lot of our infrastructure is reliable to it. Okay, all of our streetcars and even our subways are connected to it. They build our streetcars, so we want to make sure that it could be operational and working. But definitely, the next round we have to decide. Should Bombardier be a part of this bidding or should we not? So only time will tell. Only time will tell.
So
Yeah.
I have another quick question. So the Eglinton line in
Ooh,
Toronto,
another
That's another-
shenanigans. Yes, go ahead.
and that's another one that has gone beyond its projected dates
Yeah.
and way over budget, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming with this particular one, it's been like it's on a, I don't know what kind of contract it was, but how it just seems to have blown up in people's faces and affects everyone.
Yeah.
So how do you solve something like that? Like they've tried outsourcing and all these other things, but it's still not that great.
The only problem that you have with the Metrolinx is that they underestimated the project early on. So this project was probably from the survey time, it was probably done in the 90s, and then it matured in the 2000s, and then started to implement it by the middle of the 2000s. And they had a game plan going on in the 2000s, but there were so much changes that happened. So I mean, like, when you create a subway line, okay, you need a lot of open space, and you don't have that. So there is a lot of digging, a lot of construction, a lot of delays. So you can only imagine that, you tell exactly, I want to go from A to B to C, like use a critical path, but then you realize that in order to get from A to B, there's a minor delay going on, and those delays added on. So if you guys remember about the net present value situation, one of the things that unfortunately Metrolinx, and now we're not talking about Bombardier here, Metrolinx did not do was they did not buy out the space that's needed to construct, coupled with the fact that there was a lot of push against making the line with the community. So what happened here is that if you look at how the track is being made, the track is going underground, overhead, underground, and so forth. And it's they call it a light rail, but it's almost like a subway line. It's exactly like a subway line, but there is a scenario where by the side where Ontario Place is, after you get into Bayview and Leslieville, it goes underground. Okay. And the underground construction and the fact that they had to buy plazas, and they were telling them the plazas cost you in 2006 X amount. And now when you purchase the property in 2013, it just tripled the price because of real estate. It really ballooned everything all together. And then all of a sudden you had delays going on, and people were digging underground, and, with the construction and so forth. I mean, I had an office, for example, at Eglinton and Yonge that I had to go to, and I figured out simple ways to dodge the whole Eglinton traffic. Okay. And it's just like, like you have to get approvals, and, if you really want to do a project ahead of time, you had to close down all of Eglinton, and that's impossible. People live in Eglinton. People commute to Eglinton. There's like businesses in Eglinton, so you cannot do it. Basically you have to do an operation all at the same time. And there was talks of having 24 hours. People did not want that. It was complete mess. And unfortunately, it's going in the right direction, I'm going to say, but it's costing a lot more money. And unfortunately, it's going to take a toll on traffic and the livelihood of those living in around that area. Yeah. All right. So just before we jump to the contract side, I just want to mention of having a good control system in contracts. So please remember, when we look at the process by which the contract may be modified or done, definitely have the right paperwork together, track the contract altogether, have good tracking systems, making sure that on each different milestones, everything is met. Create a way to dispute it. Okay, have it open in different amendments and in the contractor clauses, making sure that there's procedures if you're not agreeing with something, if there was a price, a contract, or a deliverable. And also different approval levels necessary for authorizing changes. So making sure that if changes are needed, especially when we talked about Bombardier versus Toronto, Metrolinx versus the world, you want to make sure that changes can be done as soon as possible. Because if changes or recommendations cannot be done, it might take you months for it to be approved. And by the time it takes months, that project will be delayed and that will cost you money. So think about it like a work breakdown structure. Every single second, every single minute, every single hour, the project will cost. And if you miss out on it, it will just balloon and balloon and balloon. And then a project that costs $1 billion will turn to 2 billion, and it will just be very, very problematic. Okay. Okay, just ahead, guys, just a couple of things before we split like a banana today. Number one, in the notes on the unit number 9, we're still talking about Agile Project Team. So please, guys, in this scenario, please read over Agile Practice Guide, which is in this book, or it's in the newest version. It's connected to it. In this one, you're going to read over section 5, table A1-2. Of the Agile Practice Guide. I also left for you guys an article by Spudnak on mixed agile traditional project management methodologies. Could you do it? Could you not? Is that reality? Is it an illusion? Spudnak will give you his take on it. And also on the objective unit in this particular class, I want you to develop the necessary facility on team membership that can coordinate around projects and identify a common agile project team practice, and hopefully evaluate a variety of tools and techniques to deal with different issues that happen and conduct them in the project as well. So every time we talk about project, every project needs a project charter, and we mentioned that since the beginning. You guys done that as well. And we have to know why the project matters, where the team is going, and what is the project objectives. But please remember that project charter itself may not always provide enough grounds for effective delivery. Because again, even in my class, I have students who signed on a project charter, and by next week, they do not meet the criteria. So agile teams are required team norms and governance to understand how to work together. And that's the chemistry that you guys built together in a remote environment in multiple time zones. And the charting process helps the team learn how to work together, work in harmony, and work on the project itself. So again, please remember, guys, that the goal of a project charter is to create an agile environment, to find what team members do well, and make sure that the team members can work to be the best in what they can do within the project team, especially making sure that we have a common goal and the opportunity to practice things like retrospectives, what we have done, backlog preparation, reporting, refinements, doing stand-ups, maybe meetings every mornings, demonstration and reviews, planning for iteration of the approach, execution practices that help the team deliver value, iterative and incremental development, and making sure that in the learning activity that I will give you for today, you will examine the delivery in an agile practice environment and demonstrate to me an understanding by responding to requests from a friend or a coworker in need of creating an agile team and trying to implement an environment as compared to the traditional setting. So in our learning activity for today, let's assume that you have a good project that has a horizon that changed from a 5-year project into 3 years and then went down to a year project, okay? That you can actually do within 12 months. So in our unit number 9, we advocated to a continuous process that can include reviewing the project, looking at the operation, the program, and the portfolio where changes can be done in a strategic plan and can be done at a quarterly review. So I want you guys to come back to your EPPM, and as your enterprise implements transition to a continuous process, what obstacles can you expect that when you go down from a 5-year project to a 1-year project, what kind of obstacles will you have? And again, think about the triangle of quality, where all of a sudden you go down from 5 years to 1 year, quality cost will balloon, okay? And what you can do to mitigate these obstacles, okay? Making sure that quality will still be strong and that you have the perfect triangle altogether. That is going to be our topic for today. And what I want you guys to do is to read it over and hopefully give me your best outcome on how you can mitigate these obstacles and take care of them.
Sorry, sir, can I just ask a question? Because
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
it's still early and I haven't finished my coffee.
Coffee's good.
When you're saying as your enterprise implements transitioning to a continuous process, are you just talking about the changing from the 5 years to the 1 year, or is there a different continuous process that I'm forgetting here?
No, it's all changing on time. The schedule is changing. You are actually optimistic about the project, and the goal is that management says, well, we can do this project in a year. So now you as a project manager have to realize, well, this whole idea we had here took us 5 years or 60 months. How can we convert this into a 12-month project? So now your goal is to realize, okay, now the scenario is we have to do it quicker, we have to do better. What obstacles will happen here? Okay, and the first obstacle probably is that you may have to hire more people. You may have to work 24 hours. So those kind of obstacles will happen. You have to write them down. You have to realize them and then report back. And then if those problems happen, how do you mitigate them?
Okay, and so we haven't actually began this particular project of the
Yeah.
5 year. We're still in the planning stages.
Yeah, it's in the planning stage, and manager came back to you, says, Eureka, we can do this in a year. And now your heart is beating and saying, oh my God, I need some coffee, I need some realization. How can I do this project in a year? And now you're going to look about all the risks involved in part number 1. And part number 2, how do you handle the risk? That's basically the question.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Any questions about it? Everybody's okay on it? It's good. So that's going to be our 2 questions. Okay, please put some input on it. Please deliver it to me by next week by word, and you'll get some dividends on it. Before we also go, I have 2 things I want to talk about. 1, what's up on deck, and 2, what some ideas you can do for presentation. So another yay moment in our milestone of our class. The presentation is due unit 11, and you do not need to present it in class. I repeat, you do not need to present it in class. All you have to do is the following. Give me a PowerPoint slide document, okay? Come together, write in 10, 15 slides, what you have done, and deliver to me. That's it. If you do that, you'll get marked. But, I feel like a philanthropist professor, and I want you guys to get maybe some pro bonos. So if you're interested in any pro bonos, okay, you have numerous ways you can present, but you cannot present in class because it is impossible. It's very hard to connect everybody, especially in different time zones, and bring everybody to the same platform. So what you can do is the following, okay? You can have a add-on, okay, and make a video. Now, how do you make a video? In the last 15 semesters I taught this class, students came up with some unique ways, okay? You can have different applications you can use. You can use things like Zoom. What I'm doing right now is I'm recording my lectures. You can actually bring your team together and you can have a presentation done with your team, okay? It can take 5-10 minutes. You just plan it together, part of the project charter, and you do it, or you can have one person do it. If you want to have one person do it, there's another program called Loom. It's a cousin of Zoom. Get it? Loom, Zoom, cousins. So what happens here is with Loom, you have a face, you have a sound, you have a project. Basically, it gives you, PowerPoint, and you can be able to make a presentation. So again, if somebody is really good at presenting, you can actually do it on Loom. Okay, that's an option. And in fact, Loom gives students, people who have accounts with schools, including Yorkville, posh, gives you the opportunity to be able to do it on their platform for no cost. I pay for it, but Loom is for free for students. Again, guys, whatever platform you do, you can also do it on your smartphone. You can, put it on in front of you guys. Use it as you would like. However you do it, it's your call. Okay. It's a pro bono. You're not mandated to present a video, but if you do, you may get pro bono marks. Okay, so if I see that you've done it, normally the pro bono marks is that you guys work in teams. If I see a video, there might be extra marks, wink, wink, in the part number 2. So I normally do not mark part number 2 on week 10. I would wait till week 11. And what will happen here is that you're not mandated to present the video, but if you do have a video, all I ask you guys to do is to upload it and put it in a link on your first slide of your PowerPoint presentation. So what you would do, for example, let's assume I'm going to do a presentation on my phone. My phone, I have I think a Galaxy S23, I think. I updated on my reading week. But what I'm going to do is that it's 4K quality. By the time I'm done, it's about 800 megabytes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, go on YouTube, upload it, and YouTube is going to generate to me a link. Or you can also go to your cloud. I believe every student has 1 terabyte. Yes, 1 terabyte of cloud space that Yorkville, the best school in the country, can give you. All right, so it gives you 1 terabyte of space, and you can share with me. Okay, but please remember, guys, do not upload 800 megabytes of files. That will be a disaster. Please only give me the link, and give me it in the beginning, the first slide. So when I mark you guys, what's going to happen is I'm going to open a rubric. I'm going to see that you have the video. I will open the video. And as I mark your team, I'm going to mark you guys with the video as well. And normally what happens, and this is where the fun part here is that if you get a mark, let's say of 100%, that you did a really good job, and I'll give you an extra pro bono, let's say it's 105%, there's no such thing as 105%, correct? Because we have a pie can only be 100. So I have to take a 5% and give it to another category. And normally that category will be your report number 2, part number 2, case number 2. Okay, your case study that you're going to be doing with the team. So if, for example, your team gets I don't know, 81 or 75, let's say, or 76, 5% more may push a team to an 81. Okay, or if you get 86, 5% more will push you guys to 91. But again, it's your call. All right. If you do not want to do it, you do not have to do it. Okay. But it is for extra marks. Okay. And I give you some scenarios. You can do Zoom. Zoom, basically, you can tell everybody, meet me at the Zoom meeting at this time. And you meet together. One person records it. That person that records it then uploads it to either cloud with link, YouTube, whatever you want, but I need to see it. Or you can have one person do it, Loom, or multiple people doing a Loom, which is it's a little bit complicated. Or you can have somebody do it on their smartphones. That's another option. Whatever option you do, it's your call. But please pick one. And if you want to pick one, it's your call. Okay. I leave it to you guys. Okay. I get a lot of people who message me saying, "Hey, sir, so and so doesn't want to do a presentation video," and unfortunately, I cannot weigh in. If they do not participate in case study, then I weigh in that. If they do not participate in the document presentation, I weigh into that. But this is a personal matter between the team, and some people decide, or some teams decide that, let's not do a video. But if you want to do a video, extra marks are available. Any questions?
So what will we be doing? Are we having an actual class for 24?
Yes, we're going to have a class in Unit 11. The class is RRCC, Review, Reflect, Closure in Your Careers. So I'm going to make sure that we're going to do a quick, sweet class. And instead of having the class become a presentation, especially coupled with Zoom, different time zones, different internet power outages and so forth, I do not want to deal with that because it would just loosen the marks. So in Unit 11, you're going to give me two things. We're going to give me your final paper, and you're going to give me your presentation. But all I ask for in the presentation, the minimal, is a document. And then when we do the class, we're going to do a review of the whole class that we were together the last 11 weeks. We're going to figure out how this whole thing puzzled. We're going to talk a little bit about careers in our class, and then we're going to close our class on a good note. That's the goal for 2 weeks from now. So today is 15th. Yeah, the 24th you mentioned, or 25th, or sorry, 23rd. That's going to be our goal for the class. Okay. Any questions about the ideas? And again, it's your call. And, whatever your team agrees on, again, it's your call here. If your team wants a video, you'll get a video. If your team does not want a video and it becomes like a community of dysfunctional project, I mean, it's down the line of you guys, okay? I cannot control your team. I'm only overlooking your team. Whatever happens to your team happens. But if somebody does not contribute to either part number 3 or part number 2, then I will step in on that one. Okay, very good. Good. All right. So let's talk about what's up on deck. And I have a little bit of what we call it, not resolution, not reservation, revelation. All right, revelation. We're going into the Bible here. But some revelation, I need my schedule out here for March. Okay, got it. All right. So guys, for March, team case study report is due March 15th. However, all right, another yay moment. I'm just throwing the yays here. I will propose something new here, and just follow me here. I will create an extension on it, okay, for, instead of the 15th, March 17th, okay, which is Friday, and until, well, the max is March, I would say 20th. What's like, let me look at it. Hold on. Look at it again. Let me just do it so I can confirm. Sorry, March 19th. So that means you have the 3-day grace, 17th, 18th, 19th, and I'm giving you 2 extra days to do it. Is that okay? No yay, no nay. No comment token. I'll keep it as is.
Good,
Good.
good, good.
Yay. All right. All right. Next up. Okay. Team case presentation, which is unit 11. You guys are Wednesday class. So I'm willing to do something interesting here. This one, guys, I am willing to go and give it to you guys on March 24th, which is a Friday again. Okay. And you can submit it until, okay, the max March 26th. Okay. So that means by March 26th, everything will be closed and shut down. There's no March 27th here. By March 26th at 11 o'clock, 11:59 p.m., everything will cease to exist. So please make sure to give me it at least by March 26th. Okay. March 24th is the due date. Max March 26th is the 3-day grace. So you have 24th, 25th, 26th to complete it. And lastly, the last option I have for you guys, another new date for your final individual term report. Same thing, guys. I will start to accept it, okay, by March 24th. Sorry, March 24th, Friday. But the max is gonna be March again. When was that? March 26th. Okay. So again, my goal here is that by Sunday, you will have it done. Okay. You will still get partial marks if you still submit it, but please make sure to submit it on time. Okay. Any questions about this updated due date?
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. I'm always here to give and give. But
That's
please,
really very good.
you're welcome. So please make sure, guys, that you guys hopefully will give me the items. Again, I do respect the 3-day grace that we have available, but please make sure to give me everything by either the, where was that? The 17th or the 24th, okay? By March 26th, it's the last final day of our semester. I need to give you the marks on YSIS, okay? And if it's missing, unfortunately, YSIS is not that fair, okay? So please make sure to give me everything on time, okay? So please write it down. I will update it on Moodle, and it's a gift from me to you guys, on top of extra marks if you are looking for it at the end of our class. Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
quick question. For the
Go-
presentation,
Mhm.
for the extra marks on the video and stuff like that, like, does it have to be super fancy or could it just be the video presentation and then
Just a video. That's it.
okay,
I
don't
mean, you
need
can
like
go. You can go above and beyond.
woo!
I mean, hey, listen, I'm always impressed by woos. But if it's a video, as long as it's a video, you can do it. You can even have one person do it. Okay. So if you're a team
But-
leader and you're like, I want to do it, go ahead.
But sir, but everybody can do it, right? So that
yeah.
to be fair.
To be fair, yes, everybody can do it. And I see before that one person maybe it's not that good in writing documents, and it's a
Mhm.
given. So they did not focus a lot about writing the report. But what they did, they did the video and the document, the PowerPoint, and it was perfect. So it all depends how you want to do it. Some teams, they do it together. Some teams, they outsource to specific people. It's your call how you want to do it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So what's on deck, guys? What is up on deck is the following. So we're finishing nicely and comfortably. We're finishing our unit number 9. So we have 3 more deliverables, including learning activity number 9 on hand. So please remember, guys, please work on team case study within the revised due date of March 17th. Okay. Please make sure to complete it for me on time by Friday. Or if you need more time, you can still do by Sunday, but please make sure to submit it and you are good to go. Okay. Any further questions on the due dates? Any further questions on our class? Anything that you guys wanted me to highlight here? He's good. All right. So again, guys, if you're looking for the Agile practice guide, number 4, I have it available. I got it approval. Please send me a request and I'll send it to you by email. If you're looking for Agile practice guide section number 5, I can also do that and need permission again by PMI. So please make sure to send me an email and I will get it to you guys. Other than that, guys, let's bring our friend from Lacoste, and I would adjourn. Sorry, one second. I would adjourn our class. So have yourself a good one. And as the alligator from Lacoste said, see you later, alligators. I wish you guys all the best and good luck on your next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good day.
You too, man. Have a good one. Take it easy.
Thank you so much. And Professor,
Thank you
I
so
took the
much.
title from your list. It's all okay.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate it. You're welcome.
Goodbye.
You too. Have a good one, Mari.
In a while, crocodile.
You too. I try to be creative. You too. Take care, Mari. Have a good one. Take care, guys. Enjoy. Have a good one. All the best. Professor, I need a copy of the Agile, please. All right. Milad, just send me an email. Just send me an email with your Yorkville email, and I'll send it to you this morning.
All right, Professor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
All right. So I'm still gonna be here till 9, but if you still need me, I will be available. I'm just gonna go into Moodle right now and update the new dates for you guys. Okay?
Professor, I just need to discuss one thing with you.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Just for the final week. Can I do it like in a private portion somewhere?
Sure. One second. Breakout rooms. Okay, I'm just gonna go in the breakout room, guys. Just bear with me. I'll be right back. Milad. All right. Just join the breakout room.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. Hi.
Professor, so last week I might not be able to